What if one of the most dangerous conflicts in the world was never officially declared as a war? What if two powerful nations have been in a constant state of confrontation? Not for years, but for decades. This is not just a story about weapons, politics, or military strength. This is a story about history, power, fear, and consequences. A story where every decision echoes across generations. This is the story of the United States and Iran. To understand this conflict, we have to go back to a time when Iran and the United States were not enemies. In 1953, Iran had a democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. He made a bold move. He nationalized Iran's oil industry, taking control away from foreign companies, particularly British interests. At the time, oil was not just a resource. It was influence. It was control. And this decision threatened powerful global players. Soon after, a covert operation, backed by the United States and Britain, led to Mossadegh's removal. The Shah of Iran was restored to power, aligning the country closely with the West. But inside Iran, something had changed. A deep sense of mistrust had taken root. Many Iranians saw this as foreign interference, a moment when their sovereignty was taken away, and this feeling would not disappear. Fast forward to 1979. Years of political repression, economic struggle, and public dissatisfaction reached a breaking point. The Shah fled the country, and a revolution swept through Iran. Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, Iran transformed into an Islamic republic. This was not just a political shift, it was ideological. Iran was no longer aligned with the West. Instead, it positioned itself in opposition to it. Then came a moment that would define the relationship for decades. American diplomats in Tehran were taken hostage. For 444 days, the crisis dominated global headlines. For Iran, it was a powerful statement of independence. For the United States, it was a national humiliation. Trust between the two nations collapsed completely. And from that moment on, their relationship entered a new phase. Not open war, but something far more complex. In 1980, Iran faced a new challenge. Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, invaded. What followed was one of the deadliest conflicts of the 20th century, the Iran-Iraq War. It lasted 8 years. Hundreds of thousands of lives were lost. Entire cities were destroyed. Chemical weapons were used. But this war was not as simple as it seemed. Global powers became involved, directly and indirectly. The United States and several regional countries supported Iraq. Why? Because a revolutionary Iran was seen as a greater threat to regional stability. This raises a critical question. Was the war prolonged to weaken both sides? Because when it finally ended, neither Iran nor Iraq had achieved a decisive victory. But the damage was irreversible. After the Iran-Iraq War, the conflict between the United States and Iran did not end. It changed form. There were no formal declarations of war, but tensions remained high. Sanctions were imposed on Iran, targeting its economy. Iran, in turn, expanded its influence across the Middle East. It supported groups and allies in countries like Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. This created a new type of conflict, a shadow war. A war fought through proxies, influence, and strategy rather than direct confrontation. In this kind of conflict, it is often difficult to determine where one battle ends and another begins. And for ordinary people, the impact is often invisible, but deeply felt. In the early 2000s, concerns about Iran's nuclear program began to rise. The central fear was clear. What if Iran developed nuclear weapons? Iran maintained that its program was for peaceful purposes, but the United States and its allies were skeptical. Sanctions intensified. Tensions increased. Then, in 2015, a breakthrough. A nuclear agreement was reached, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Under this deal, Iran agreed to limit its nuclear activities in exchange for relief from sanctions. For a brief moment, it seemed like diplomacy had succeeded. But the agreement was fragile. When the United States withdrew from the deal, tensions escalated once again. This raises another important question. Was this a lost opportunity for long-term peace, or was conflict always inevitable? In recent years, the conflict has become more visible. Drone strikes, cyber attacks, and targeted assassinations have become part of the strategy. Each side sends signals to the other, testing limits, avoiding full-scale war but never stepping back completely. This creates a dangerous situation, because when tensions are this high, even a small miscalculation can have massive consequences. And in today's interconnected world, those consequences are not limited to one region. It is important to understand that this is not just a conflict between two countries. It involves an entire network of alliances and rivalries. Israel views Iran's nuclear ambitions as a direct threat. Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states see Iran as a regional competitor. Countries like Iraq and Syria have become arenas where influence is contested. Meanwhile, global powers like Russia and China support Iran strategically, challenging U.S. influence. This creates a complex and fragile balance, one that could shift at any moment. There is one place that holds global significance in this conflict: the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes. If this route were to be disrupted, the impact would be immediate. Oil prices would rise. Global markets would react. Economic stability could be threatened. This highlights an important reality. In modern conflicts, economic and strategic locations can be just as important as military power. Amid all the strategy and politics, it is easy to overlook the human cost. Behind every decision are real people, families affected by sanctions, communities living in uncertainty, young generations growing up in environments shaped by conflict. This raises an essential question: who truly bears the cost of these tensions? Because while governments make decisions, it is often ordinary people who live with the consequences. To truly understand this conflict, we must be willing to ask difficult questions. Is Iran acting aggressively or responding to decades of pressure? Is the United States protecting global stability or its own strategic interests? Are sanctions a tool of diplomacy or a form of economic warfare? And perhaps most importantly, can conflicts rooted in ideology ever be resolved through force? The answers are not simple, and they often depend on perspective. History provides important lessons. Conflicts in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan have shown that military strength alone does not guarantee success. In many cases, long-term stability remains difficult to achieve. This suggests that the challenges in the U.S.-Iran relationship may not have easy solutions, and that any attempt to resolve them will require more than force. Looking ahead, several paths are possible. Diplomatic negotiations could reduce tensions. The current pattern of indirect conflict could continue, or the situation could escalate into a larger regional war. Each scenario carries risks, and each depends on decisions yet to be made. The conflict between the United States and Iran is not defined by a single event. It is shaped by decades of history, by choices made in moments of crisis, by actions taken in the name of security, power, and survival. It is a reminder that in international relations, every action has consequences, and those consequences can last for generations. The question is not just how this conflict began. The real question is, how will it end? And what will the world look like when it does?